Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this skill is called Identify Sensory Details. Sensory details are words and phrases that appeal to the five senses, which is see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. Writers include sensory details to make the reader better understand and imagine parts of the story. So here are examples of how sensory details are used in a text. Sight. John's face glowed from the light of the fire. Glowed from the light of the fire is something that you can actually see. Sound. In the morning, Samantha awoke to the chirping of birds outside her window. Chirping of birds is something that you can actually hear. Touch. Ted was uncomfortable in his scratchy wool sweater. Scratchy wool sweater is something that you can actually feel. Taste. The sharply sour apple made Mary's mouth pucker. Sharply sour apple is something that you can actually taste. Smell. I caught a whiff of freshly baked bread as I passed by the bakery. Freshly baked bread is something that you can actually smell. So let's try a few. Our directions is we're going to select the sentence with a sensory detail that describes a sound. So as I read the passage, I'm looking for a sentence that has words or phrases that describes a sound. Anna's ambition was to study the sitar. She loved listening to the vibrating, buzzing tones of sitar music. Despite her mother's doubts, Anna saw no reason why she shouldn't take up the traditional Indian instrument. All she had to do was find a teacher willing to give her lessons for free, and then she needed a sitar. After that, it would be easy. She just had to practice until she got the hang of it, right? So I need to go back through the actual text and find the sentence that has sensory details. It could be words or phrases of a sound. So here in the second sentence it says, she loved listening to the vibrating, buzzing tones of sitar music. In this sentence here, vibrating and buzzing, these are words and phrases that you can actually hear. So I'm going to hit submit. Let's try another one. In this particular example, it says, select the sentence with a sensory detail that describes a taste. Leah took a small sip of the bittersweet herbal tea to make sure she brewed it correctly. She set another teacup on the tray and carried it into the living room where Aunt Lisa waited. Leah sincerely hoped that Grandma was right about this tea being able to cure Lisa's cold. Leah's school play was tomorrow, and she wanted to make sure that her aunt would be in the audience. So select the sentence with the sensory detail that describes a taste. This first one says Leah took a small sip of the bitter sweet herbal tea to make sure she brewed it correctly. So bittersweet is an example of taste. So I'm going to hit submit. All right. This example here says select the sentence with the sensory detail that describes a taste. So Abby's little sister Eva was the only student in her class who hadn't yet lost a single tooth. Eva's best friend had already lost 3, but Eva had been wiggling her front tooth for days and now it was loosening. She pushed the tooth hard with her tongue. It popped out onto the table and the faintly metallic flavor of blood filled her mouth. Hooray! Now her name would be written on the tooth chart too. In this sentence here, it says, it popped out into the table and the faintly metallic flavor of blood filled her mouth. So we have metallic flavor. Flavor pertains to taste. So I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. This next one says, select the sentence with the sensory detail that describes how something feels to touch. Andrew was starting his new job at the health clinic. On his first day of work, Dr. Perry told Andrew how to clean the equipment. The instruments had to be sterilized in water that was so scalding hot that Andrew couldn't pick them up, even with gloves on, until they cooled. According to Dr. Perry, sterilization was necessary to make sure the equipment didn't pass infections from one patient to another. So in this sentence right here, it says the instruments had to be sterilized in water that was so scalding hot. Scalding hot is something that you can feel, that Andrew couldn't pick them up even with gloves on until they cooled. So scalding hot is something that you can actually feel. So we're going to click that sentence and we're going to hit submit. I'm going to do this last one. It says select the sentence with the sensory detail that describes sight. Every Saturday, Marlon searches the beach near his house for interesting objects. Starting after breakfast, he walks back and forth on the sand. He usually finds shells and stones, but sometimes he comes across other unusual things. He particularly prizes sea glass because he loves its frosted green appearance. He puts what he finds in a shoebox that he keeps on a shelf in his bedroom. In this particular sentence here, we have the word sea glass because he loves its frosted green appearance. Frosted green is something that we can actually see. We're going to hit submit. Okay, so you'll be completing the exercise that looks like this. Your goal is to reach 80% or above, and if you have already completed this actual skill and you have earned a score of 80%, then you are going to go to 100. That is your goal, is to get to 100. So you may use this sheet over here as a form of reference to help you, just in case you want to know what how sensory details look in certain sentences. Give you an example right here. I'll scroll down again. And good luck.